The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Boy, we have a lot going on the program today. Of course, that means the very latest from what's going on in the NCAA lawsuit. The University of Tennessee and the state of Tennessee and Virginia has filed against the NCAA. Not a lot of news. As we told you originally, that would very likely be the case. With Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. Also on the program today, we are going to get into Tennessee's over-under at 8.5. We discussed this briefly yesterday, and I don't get it. It's just easy money to me, but that seems to be the consensus with a lot of national media. Also, the Vols spring game, limited attendance. Do you care? There's going to be 10,000 fans there with Nico in the spring game. Maybe it's a hot ticket like Taylor Swift. I don't know. We'll find out. I know that's a pretty hot ticket because my wife has some interest. Also, SEC football staff updates. You are going to see this more and more until they get the calendar fixed, where coaches are going to try to get to the NFL as best they can. And if that's not the case, I think quality of life and the culture of a program will factor in more than it ever did, because these guys aren't getting time off. I mean, these guys see their kids when they're born, and then they say good luck in college when they're 18. Big Ten commissioner plans to schedule more November games with college football playoff implications. I like that. And also, it looks like the SEC will be at the 9-game schedule eventually. Basketball Final Four caliber after Arkansas. Are those your Vols? Good morning, Caleb. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm well. And good morning to everyone on the message board. Please go ahead and hit that likes and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. And we have a lot of fun on the program. We were able to give away a lot of prizes yesterday. Congratulations to, I believe it was Caitlin, who won the Fire Opals from Rick Terry Jewelry Design. And he was nice enough to send me a picture of those. And we greatly appreciate Rick Terry Jewelry Design, who was able to present those Fire Opals on Valentine's Day. It's pretty cool. So we were able to work that out yesterday. Now, I remind you that you can join Hooker's Corner, our own Patron Patreon. I call it Patron. Patreon page. You can join that at any time, and we'll give away weekly gifts, which will include T-shirts and books. By the way, if you've already joined, you won. You should have received a message, because everybody that joined in the first week won. So that's going to be, if you're a member, then we are going to take care of you, and go ahead and sign up. So that was the first round. From here forward, we will be able to give away a weekly prize, and then the monthly prize this week is a mini autographed helmet for Hendon Hooker. Now, turn to a very serious note. As we have discussed on this program today, what I would call random acts of violence, and they're not getting so random anymore. It seems like they're getting regular acts of violence. And as it happened, Trey Smith, who to a man, everybody that I've talked to is a stand-up individual, found himself in a position in which he needed to render aid to a young man during the Chiefs Super Bowl victory. Caleb, I think it speaks to a couple of things that I have learned. And one is that these are not the wild and crazy guys that you hear about on North Dallas 40 or even that movie with Jamie Foxx in it. There is not as much of that as you would believe. These are pros, even at the college level. And the other thing that I've learned is primarily these are good men. And I have to be honest with you, and I don't mean this as a way of suppressing what he did. I'm just not surprised. I'm not surprised from what I've heard of Trey Smith that he would stop, potentially endanger himself, and give us the whole backstory, Caleb, because Trey Smith was there during a shooting at the Super Bowl championship parade. Nobody would begrudge anybody from running away from gunfire, right? I mean, we all think that we're going to be superheroes in that situation, but we really don't know until we're put in that situation. Trey Smith was put in that situation. I'm not surprised at all. He acted like an exemplary human. I've had the opportunity, Caleb, to talk about Trey a lot with Cooper Mays. So let me get your thoughts. We have a lot of fun on the program, but this is a very serious thing. Absolutely.
So we don't know for sure yet if this was after the gunfire had stopped or while it was going on. But what we do know is that there were some kids. There were a lot of kids at this parade. There were 9 kids that were hit with gunfire yesterday. Fortunately, none of them have died so far. I mean, it's just 21 people are in the hospital right now. Were hit. Another person, a beloved local DJ, has unfortunately passed away. I don't know if this was right after or during, but Trey Smith and a couple of other Chiefs players actively got involved to calm down kids. That you can imagine how traumatized kids are after something like this.
Imagine how traumatized we would be. I mean, I think there's a lot of fully grown adults that might not keep their stuff together, to be real honest with you.
I agree. And Trey Smith, Blaine Gabbert, there were a couple of other players, according to Albert Breer of SI.com. I want to give them all a quick shout out. Austin Ryder and Chris Oladukin all rallied. Smith apparently went to one very upset kid, gave him a WWE title belt, and just sat with him until he calmed down. Just sat with him the whole time until he calmed down. And, it seems like so minimal in a certain way, but it's so big in another way because it's the kind of guy Trey Smith is, where you can tell just he has a genuine human. He's the type of guy that has a genuine human connection with people. And he's always been that type of person. And I mean, you think for the greater good, help the masses, but Trey Smith will come across one person, no matter how, whatever they need, he will try to be there to do it. And that's what he does. And it's just, I can't say enough for Trey Smith in that situation. And I'm with you. It's not that surprising. If you had told me ahead of this that Kansas City is going to have one player that takes an active role in helping out amidst or after the shooting in a heroic way, and you have to pick who that player is, Dave, I would probably pick Trey Smith before anybody else. And that's crazy to think about, but I would. I mean, he's just that good of a guy.
Yeah, I would have too, based off talking to Cooper Mays, and I'm very blessed to get that sort of access about what he thinks about Trey, and he practically considers Trey Smith to be a brother right alongside with Cade Mays. So, I mean, that's pretty strong. I'm an only child, but I would imagine, Caleb, you have a brother. To say somebody that you're as close to as your brother is a pretty strong statement. I believe firmly that, yes, Trey Smith would have been one of those guys. And I believe that the perception either needs to change or has to change. I was talking to Cooper for the Vol report yesterday, and I was like, I want to take you to dinner just to thank you for being there, or lunch or whatever. And he goes, well, I've got workouts. So mandatory breakfast from 8 a.m. till basically 3 p.m. Then we get about a 3-hour break, and then we have to go back for mandatory dinner and meetings. Guys, these are full-time employees. These are not, you think of North Dallas 40, those, are you old enough to remember that movie?
I've never seen North Dallas 40. Okay. I need to see it.
It is It's basically about the Cowboys of the 90s, but they said it in the 70s. They were ahead of the curve, and they were wild, and they treated women poorly, and they did a lot of drugs. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you guys, that is not the athletes that we have been visiting with when it comes to Jacob Horn and Cooper Mays. And those off the record conversations, I'm telling you, those are not the type of players that are on Tennessee's team. I think it speaks to society and the fact that these guys realize they have an opportunity, Caleb, in front of them, and they're way more mature. I mean, remember the Fulmer Cup, how people talk about how many players are getting in trouble? I can say this with zero reservation. You're rooting for a bunch of good dudes. To get to that level nowadays, it's become so specialized that I think if you're lazy, you get weeded out. But I think if you're a bad dude, a bad teammate, you get weeded out as well. So I would just like to pass that along, is you're rooting for not just great people that we work with, but you were rooting for Trey Smith, and you'll be rooting for other players that will one day do a very similar thing. Unfortunately, these shootings are going to happen again, but I've been astounded by how great of guys these have been, getting to know them through the Vol Report. And it's why, honestly, whether or not it's profitable, I told Cooper, I want to keep doing this. It's kind of a break even for Off the Hook Sports, to be real honest with you. But I want him to have the money, and I want him to have a place, unlike a press conference, that he can express his feelings. And he's just a good guy, man. The perception is so much different from the wild ones back in the day, Caleb, from what I've found over the past 2 years.
Yeah, and you're right. And it's funny because everybody talks about how everybody complains about today's players, but I think by and large, today's players in the NFL are so much better behaved than players 50 years ago. Largely, I mean, and look, there's an economic situation. Players 50 years ago did not get the medical treatment they needed for maybe mental health issues and head issues. They didn't have the financial means to be good guys, if you want to say that, whereas now there's a lot more protections for them. But I mean, it's sad because, like, when Antonio Brown acts like Antonio Brown, who I think we can probably agree is the worst human being to play in the NFL, one of the worst human beings to play in the NFL the last 10 years, right? In terms of character, he's at the bottom.
Other than murderers.
Yes, exactly. But I said that's why I said one of. Okay, but yes, Aaron Hernandez is at the bottom, but I'm talking about just not going extreme. Antonio Brown is one of the worst human beings. Most NFL players aren't like that, guys. Most NFL players are trying to make a living, feed their families, do right by the people that drafted them. They're humans like all of us. And I think that Trey Smith, even by that standard, is just so much better. There's a former Chief, Dave, that you covered who fits this bill, who played for Tennessee too, and that's Eric Berry. And it was pre-NIL, but Eric Berry, was he not one of he's somebody you want dating your daughter, isn't he?
No.
And
exactly. And I'll tell you this too, and I'm not trying to take advantage of the situation because we promote them because they're a partner, they're a client, but it's never been more apropos to promote our friends at Harrell Group Security Solutions, because this is what they do. Harrell Group Security Solutions provides security to your workplace, security to your school, your children's school, and they're working with private schools now. We want to work with public schools. So go to harrellgrp.com or just Google Harrell Group Security Solutions and make sure that your workplace is safe. These are highly trained individuals. I'm not going to get into politics, but the public schools, the security guards they hire, and this is me saying this, not Harrell Group Security Solutions, are not Green Berets. Okay. A lot of these guys are. These are highly trained individuals, and we can make this work, and we want to get into public schools. That's the next step for all of this. So it's a serious topic to lead off the show, but God bless all of those that have gone through that terrible situation in Kansas City, and kudos to Trey Smith. I just can't say enough about that young man and what he was able to do yesterday. There is no good there is no good transition really to move on, but we are going to be able to do that. Anything else you would like to say about Trey Smith at this point?
No, I think you spoke it pretty good. And this is the Trey Smith that we all knew. This is the Trey Smith that threw away being a top 3 round pick in the NFL to come back for a senior season because he wanted to fulfill a promise to his late mother to graduate.
Tell that story again, though, for those that don't know, because I mean, especially with the blood clots, he should have gotten the heck out of Dodge. I mean, as soon as he could, right?
Yes. For those who don't remember, this was pre-NIL, so he wasn't making any money. And Trey Smith was an all-SEC guard 3 years in a row. He was a highly touted NFL draft pick. The blood clots were the concern, but at this point, coming after 2019, it seemed like he was still going to be a pretty high draft pick because he had so much potential. He still decided to come back for his senior year. And he said he was going to do it because his mother, who was dying of cancer, her dying wish was for him to graduate. And he said he was going to graduate before he went to the NFL. He graduated, so he chose to come back. Within a month of choosing to come back, Dave, COVID hits. Trey Smith, blood clots in his lungs. Nobody's more vulnerable to COVID than Trey Smith.
Yeah.
And Trey Smith played the whole season. Tennessee had a disastrous season that partially hurt his draft stock. But I think to this day, I guarantee you Trey Smith would do it all over again if he could, because it has worked out and he has fulfilled his late promise and he's an NFL player.
Totally agree. And I think I mentioned this yesterday. My concern with Trey Smith always was that Trey Smith might have fatigue from the medicine that he took. So beforehand, Charles Hathaway, he was a Tennessee basketball player. When you pretty much got blood clots, it wasn't necessarily the blood clots that killed you or ended your career. It was the medicine and fighting through that. So Trey Smith was able to do that. 7th round pick. He is, well, I guess you could say Brock Purdy since he plays quarterback, but Trey Smith is the second best deal right now in the NFL, and he's about to get paid, and he absolutely deserves it. There is no good transition from something so serious, and you are in our prayers, thoughts and prayers, Kansas City. I've been so close to flipping from a Dallas Cowboys fan, which I've been all my life, to a Kansas City fan. Trey Smith might push it over the top. And it would be so bandwagon because they're winning, but I tend to root for people, Caleb, more than I root for jerseys. I don't know. I didn't cover any of the current Dallas Cowboys. There's a part of me that just wants to be a Chiefs fan, and that's not just because they're winning. But I guess I'll hold tight because I think a true fan sticks with his team. But Kansas City played the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl. I might not say it, but it would be difficult for me not to root for Kansas City and Trey Smith. Okay, let's no good transition, so let's just move forward. Go, what the H? Tennessee just 8.5 wins? Wow, that's pretty stunning. Here we go.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
We have a new gambling partner we're going to announce, and I went into it and I told them that you're just going to have to give my audience incredible buy-ins. So they're going to do that. Your first 3 buy-ins are going to be at 125%. I'll tell you more about that. But first, before we finalize everything, we're going to go off FanDuel's numbers, but I think betus.com, but don't do it yet because I'm going to give you the code where you get 25% more cash. So you put in 100, you get 125 back. Pretty cool. All right. Tennessee football's over under set at 8.5 on FanDuel. Okay. Pick a word to describe this.
Asinine. Asinine. And and I could get past. I told you this yesterday. I usually debate with rankings, reporters or whatever that set these over under win totals and predictions, and we can call them biased. But Dave, you know this. Vegas doesn't have any bias. They have a financial interest in setting this.
Yes.
And how in the world did they set this at 8.5? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Are they seeing something that I don't? Because this is ridiculous. I mean, they went 9-4 this year with a significantly worse quarterback than they're going to have next year.
I'm having deja vu. It felt like we had this conversation where you and I weren't on day to day, but it felt like we had this conversation, or at least I did on the program heading into the 2022 season. I'm just literally, instead of just saying it's asinine like you did, and I was just going to say bizarre and idiotic, whatever the words, let's play the other side. Give me a reason that Tennessee is 8.5 when I believe they should be 9.5. Okay, new quarterback. I'm going to play devil's advocate, and you tell me, and throw it on the message board too if you want to challenge Caleb, which is basically challenging both me and Caleb, because I can tell you the money I won on the Jawan Jennings touchdown thanks to Denda, that I'm putting that all on this because it's an easy bet. So, but I'm going to throw some things at you. First year quarterback.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it. I'm trying to come up with stuff.
Okay. So I looked at the SP Plus yesterday, and I'm going to look at other analytical data going forward, but we can pretty much guarantee in all analytical data, there's going to be 3 teams ahead of Tennessee this year, no matter how you splice it. Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia. Safe to say?
Okay. Yes.
That's already 9. So I think Vegas is looking at that, and then they're saying, okay, there is a 50-50. It's likely Tennessee loses those 3 games, and then they say there's a 50-50 chance Tennessee slips up in one of their other 9 games and I mean, the ones that they might point out would be NC State at Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi State. I mean, I'm spitballing here, but I guess they're saying one of those games, NC State at Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State. They're saying that one of those games will be a slip up for Tennessee, and the other 3 are likely losses. That's where I think they're getting to 8.5.
Okay. This wouldn't be a factor, but coaches and players departing the program. If I'm on the outside looking in, I'm thinking, oh, this thing could be burning down internally because they've got a couple of coaches that could leave, one that already did, and they had a player like Tyler Barron, who, again, outside looking in, we know more than the media, the national media. Outside looking in, they don't have great chemistry like they've had in previous years. I'm just trying to come up and challenge you. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not saying I believe any of this stuff.
Well, that's the problem. I think their chemistry is amazing. I think the analytical data works against them, though, because it doesn't look like they have chemistry, because when you lose your quarterback, it seems like you lost a disproportionate amount of production. And this is what we talk about all the time when it comes to returning talent. You can't just weigh returning talent in numbers and how you did the year before, because the story with returning talent is who's coming back. Like, who's coming back? And so just to give you guys a quick example, forget quarterback for a minute. That's a big deal. One of the things that worked against Tennessee going from 97 to 98 was they didn't just lose Peyton Manning, but they lost Marcus Nash, who set all the school records in receiving. So the idea was they lost Marcus Nash. Well, what we all found out was losing Marcus Nash was an upgrade, because that just meant more balls to throw to Peerless Price, who became the number 1 receiver. So I think Peerless and Cedric Wilson was a better receiving tandem than Marcus Nash and Peerless Price. And so but analytical data can't quantify that. All they see is record-setting receiver leaves for the NFL that was Peyton Manning's favorite target, even though you and I both agree probably the biggest product of Peyton Manning of all time was Marcus Nash. So I think that's what they see with this. They can't quantify the fact that Tennessee is getting an upgrade at quarterback. All they can quantify is that Tennessee lost a significant amount of production in Joe Milton.
Okay, no. Now, let me ask you this. This is according, though, to
Vegas.
To Vegas.
You would think Vegas would know the difference.
Right. Vegas should be factoring in, Nico.
I thought they would, too. And Vegas, as you told me yesterday, and I think you're right, we believe that Vegas is secretly tied into every single program in college football right now. They have a lot of money to make on this. I don't know where they're getting this. The only thing that might make it a concern is, does Vegas know something that we don't even know, Dave, since they're so tied in? Like, are there concerns is there a trainer, like an workout assistant coach that's telling them that, hey, there's an issue here that's not getting out at all?
Yeah, but I don't know what the issue is. So today's tough question. I can't even imagine what it would be. Today's tough question is brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. So I ask you this question, and I'm going to put you absolutely on the spot. You have to pick one reason why Tennessee is 8.5. And I'm going to go with new quarterback. Even though you know how much I like Nico, I'm going to go with outside optics, new quarterback.
I'm going to go with schedule, just because they think they're at 9. They think they only have 9 wins on their schedule already, and they think there's already 3 circled losses for Tennessee next year. And I don't think there are. I think one of those circled losses is actually a circled win, because I think Alabama's a circled win. I think the only toss-up games for Tennessee next year are Oklahoma and Georgia. That's it. But Vegas doesn't see it that way.
No, I think the Alabama win right now, if I had to pick it, would absolutely be a win for Tennessee, and not even a coin flip game. They just continue to lose people, lose coaches. There were a lot of situations in Lane Kiffin's one year where things just weren't put together like they should be. And when that happens, it costs you games, and it's going to cost Alabama a couple of games to work out the chemistry across the board with just their coaches, much less their players. City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee. Integrity matters. Don't trust a fly-by-night HVAC company to tell you that you need a new unit that could cost you thousands or more. cityheatandair.com, cityheatandair.com. Coming up on the program, Tennessee is limiting their spring game attendance by a lot. Does it matter? Do you care? By the way, today's tough question, we would absolutely love for you to vote on the question that is right now on the YouTube page. What if Vols just won 8 games in regular season? We have 4 choices. Hot seat for Heupel, disaster, but keep calm, still growing. 8 is fine. 8 is fine, got 0% of the vote. Still growing, got 40% of the vote. I would call them the optimists. Disaster, but keep calm. 40% of the vote. I would call them the realist of let's not make a huge monstrous change, because we've seen the decade of dysfunction. As a Tennessee fan, you've seen that. Lastly, hot seat for Heupel. I'm sorry, that's my choice. If other than a rash of injuries or Nico getting hurt, if they lose 4 games in the regular season, that's got to be hot seat.
That's hot seat. That's easily hot seat. This is his 4th year. How many years do you guys want? And I mean, this is a problem. The most annoying thing in the world is constantly, I'm sorry. I'm of the mindset, Dave, that I really only give a break for like 1 year to say you're rebuilding. You're only rebuilding for 1 year in football. That's it. By year 2, you better be showing me some stuff. And Heupel showed us stuff in year 2. I didn't consider last year rebuilding. I actually considered 2023 an indictment against Heupel's roster mismanagement and adding Joe Milton to begin with from 2021. But I gave him a break for that. But yeah, no, you need to show promise. If you're not rebuilding in year 4, guys.
Yeah, no, you're not, especially with the transfer portal. I'm not sure that you're rebuilding in year number 2 now. Do me a favor, hit the like and subscribe button, the like button right now. Turn your notifications on. I did a little bit of research, and a lot of you don't have your notifications on, so you don't know when we drop new stuff like Cooper Mays yesterday, who was awesome to quite awesome. Gave us some insight on Dylan Sampson, how he continues to become a leader. And the funniest line ever, Caleb, I want to call you. I thought I just shared on the show. When I said Dylan Sampson, how much of is it a want to as far as pass blocking? And he goes, I don't know, some, I guess. He goes, I wouldn't want to pass block. And this is Cooper. I mean, this is an offensive lineman. And I said, what do you mean? That's what you do. And he goes, yeah, but if I'm running around and I'm picking up 20 yards a carry, and then I have to pass block a guy that weighs 40 pounds from me, I don't want to do that. But he said Dylan does, and that's all fine. But Cooper is always hilarious. So be sure and check that out. The Vol Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning in just 2 minutes. That's a quick 2 minutes, by the way. We're going to get into the spring game attendance. Do you care that it's going to be a tough ticket? 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
Sand and salt water, the beach is a very relaxing place. Unless you wear contacts. Ow! Open your eyes to the best the beach has to offer with LASIK vision correction from Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Ah.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
What's up, everybody? This is Jacob Warren, asking you to like, subscribe, and share. Dave needs this.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
So Daniel on the message board, is anyone already accepting bets on Tennessee at 8.5? Yes, they are. So you can go ahead and get on board on that. We would love for you to do that. And also this, according to Kalen, who was our first winner. I don't know why I said that like Christopher Walken. Kalen, our first winner. So he is, let's create a Hooker's Corner tailgate to get more members. I'm not bad at cooking and grilling. We can do this to support Tennessee in the show. Love it. Win-win. So we're going to do that eventually. Maybe we'll do it for the orange and white game because only 10,000 people are allowed in, and we could have a big TV outside and people could watch. That's not the worst idea in the world. If you want to join Hooker's Corner, your ability to win weekly prizes, and our monthly prize is an autographed helmet via Hendon Hooker, an autographed mini helmet that looks pretty cool. So let me put the link on there one more time. We had an opportunity to give away some fire opals from Rick Terry Jewelry Design. So there you go. Join today. It's just $9.99 and you're going to win $9.99 worth of stuff. We thank Sports Treasures for helping us out with that as well. And we talked 10,000 people at a spring game. Used to be such a big deal, but now it's a little bit bizarre in my opinion. 4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. Spring game, schming game. They're going to have it, but just 10,000 fans.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
And mention Off the Hook Sports, you get $500 off of that spa. So let's go ahead and get to Cooper Mays right now, who is going to tell us what to do.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
What down, Coop?
Coop here. First down.
There we go. All right. So you asked the question, did Josh Heupel cave to public pressure? So let me start with this. First down. Did Josh Heupel even want to have a spring game?
No. I'm telling you right now, I firmly believe the plan was to not have a spring game. I think that is why I think he talked to Danny White, and I firmly believe he talked about doing the construction now. So I have a little bit of a connection to this, guys, believe it or not, because my wife is works for a design firm that does lighting for companies that do buildings. One of the things I've learned is people usually try construction peaks in the summer months, not in March when you're still in danger of winter weather.
Okay, well, I will tell you though that I took a friend from out of town to go see the stadium, and it's a fiasco.
I believe it's a fiasco, but what I'm getting at is that this is the second time in 3 years they've chosen February and March to do construction at Neyland Stadium instead of, I don't know, May and June when the weather's better. And I firmly believe they had to cancel the spring game 2 years ago. I firmly believe that was done on purpose to cancel the spring game. Josh Heupel is the ultimate gamesmanship coach. Honestly, in a very annoying way for people like me. Okay, he's not going to lie to you. He's not going to do like Butch Jones and just straight lie to you all the time. But he is not going. He's going to reveal as little as he possibly can, and and that's kind of what he was trying to do here. I think he was trying to avoid the spring game, and I don't think it was just public pressure. I think it was TV pressure. I think it was SEC pressure to have the spring game.
Oh, and there's no question this is television. You got to put something up there.
Yeah, I think the SEC basically said, look, we televise every spring game. We're televising yours or we're not going to get, I think they distribute the revenue evenly from the spring games on TV. And so basically they told Tennessee, you're going to have it. I'm sure they told Tennessee, if you don't hold a spring game, we're not distributing that revenue to you this year.
What down brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas?
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
What's the worst conclusion you've ever drawn from a spring game? Because they'll play backups and they'll play all these dudes. Hit like and subscribe, please, for me. I'll go ahead and tell you. Mine's Michael Brewster could be an SEC tailback. And basically, they just gave him the ball 500 times because they had, I think the Jamal Stevens Henry crew. And so they knew what they were going to do. And Jamal hadn't showed up on campus. It was the spring before the 98 season. And he just went to town. Dylan says Gaston Moore for Heisman last year. Yeah, I think we thought Gaston Moore could actually play. Any crazy assumptions you brought from the orange and white game?
Yes. And this is probably my worst.
My one would be when I was younger is don't drink bourbon when it's over 90 degrees.
You did that?
Maybe.
Oh, Dave, that's brutal, man. That's brutal.
The young man. All right, so
I would go. It's actually a coach. I would go. I said in 2017 that Larry Scott looks like a great hire at offensive coordinator, and that was who replaced Mike DeBoer under Butch Jones. And I failed on that one, guys. I was very early into my career of covering Tennessee football at that time.
I respect you for admitting that. I actually do. What down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
Okay, all that being said, who will be the standout of the spring game?
Who will be the standout?
I'll go ahead
it's going to be
you.
I'm going to say it's going to be Cam Seldon again because he's not going to play that much next year because he's not that good, and y'all all think he is.
I've cooled on him. I was never high on him. I think it's going to be this guy. I think he'll go out there and be like 8 of 8 and be done for the day. That's my prediction. 8 of 8, 140 yards. Gaston finishes thing up, and I want to see a little bit of. Well, it'll be the next down, but go ahead. So you think it'll be Cam Seldon?
Yes, but also the big one. Josh Heupel doesn't want to reveal anything about Nico's greatness in the spring. So I don't think Nico's going to be the standout player. I think Josh Heupel's going to purposely make him not look good.
Okay. Well, I will disagree with you there. Now, what player are you most excited about seeing in the orange and white game, even though there are just 10,000 fans? It's 4 Downs brought to you by our friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. 4 Downs, 4 seasons, Who do you most want to see in the spring game? Having the best spas made right here in the United States of America in your backyard. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Their showroom is open in Athens, right off the interstate. You can stop by and check out the best hot tubs and spas in the market. And then delivery, yes, they can do that to Knoxville or Chattanooga. They've got complete support, spa cover, and chemicals to keep your spa bubbling at its best. They also have pool chemicals as well. Dynasty Pools and Spas, amazing discounts for first responders, military, and even some blemish models that can save you a ton, and no one will ever notice. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Mention Off the Hook Sports, get $500 off. Dynasty Pools and Spas. Go to dynastypoolsandspas.com or stop by that showroom in Athens. dynastypoolsandspas.com. Dynasty Pools and Spas.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
Cooper Mays
SEC center Cooper Mays here. Fourth down.
Fourth down. Dylan says Lance Hurd against James Pierce will have my attention. I was going to ask you, what player do you most want to see in the spring game? Mine's Jake Merklinger, just to determine how good he is, how much of a fall off there might be if something happens to Nico. I hate to tell you, Dylan, but I don't know how much contact I'll have. Probably thud drills at best. So I don't know that you're really going to see Hurd versus anybody a lot. But my guy would be Jake Merklinger. I want to see him spin the ball.
Man, you took mine, Dave. Hate when you do that because I was going to say that too. But yeah, guys, there's going to be about 20 fake injuries in the spring game. I hope y'all know that. Okay, there's going to be like, oh, he coughed one time last night, and so we had to hold him out for today because we had to quarantine him. I mean, you're going to see the craziest reasons possible for a player to not play in this spring game. For me, though, I'll depart from you a little bit, because, and I'll say Nathan Leacock, because we heard a lot about him last year at receiver as the young star rising receiver. He's going to be buried in the depth chart again because of all the newcomers that Heupel's gotten, but I still think he's one of the future guys. So I think Heupel will give him some reps in this game, and I just want to see if he could work his way into maybe getting into the rotation.
Tennessee's rivals are managing to keep together a staff in one case and adding coaches in another. Breaking that down, the show represented by Banks and Jones. 30 seconds. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. Hey, Alabama fans, I'm not ripping you at all. I promise I'm not. But this news makes me feel no better about the program if I'm in your shoes. Alabama coach Kalen DeBoer has retained and promoted assistants Freddie Roach and Robert Gillespie. Gillespie, of course, coached at Tennessee. DeBoer announced Wednesday that Roach, the Crimson Tide's defensive line coach, will serve as associate head coach, which is basically just a way to keep him. A lot of these coaches want those titles because if you're associate head coach or assistant head coach, theoretically it helps you get your next head coaching job. It didn't with Trooper Taylor, and it hadn't a lot of times. I think it's kind of a silly ask, but you got it. And then Gillespie will remain as running backs coach with the added title of assistant head coach. This is just stupid. I mean, this is basically giving somebody a title and more money because you're so desperate because you've lost so many people and you can't hire anybody else to fill their role. They've lost their offensive coordinator, a handful of other guys. This is the saddest good news that Alabama fans could possibly have, because it's good news that they're staying. It'd be a lot worse if they were going, but the way I see it, this is terrible, bad news. And I see clearly because of Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun. Enjoy life better when you see better. Local vision correction for LASIK, cataract surgery, and regular eye examination. ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. Is this good bad news or bad good news?
I mean, or is it just any news? I mean, this is about. I mean, this is I'm dead serious on this.
By the way, I would like to announce something on the program today. Caleb Calhoun is our assistant head lead co-host in charge of comedic relief. So I gave you a big new title. Do you feel better now?
I'm so honored. I'm so
Yes.
honored. Matter of fact, I remember
Gillespie, who, by the way, I never was wowed by him at Tennessee. Were you?
No, but I thought he got wronged a little bit at Tennessee by Jeremy Pruitt. Jeremy Pruitt basically pretended to tell Robert Gillespie he was going to retain him on the staff so he could keep the 2018 recruiting class together. And then 2 weeks after the signing, he nixed Robert Gillespie like that. And I'm like, that was a low blow move, honestly. So that was a pretty snake move by Jeremy Pruitt. But yeah, I think Robert Gillespie has enough recruiting ties in the South at this point. He's very well connected as a recruiter that I think that's going to be the biggest reason that he could end up working out. Freddie Roach look, I mean, we are talking about potentially a very young Rodney Garner. And,
Really?
I mean, I will say that Freddie Roach has shown drive and he's got very good connections and things like that, but they're mostly Alabama, but there is some Louisiana and Mississippi. So it's that whole like Delta area, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, where he does have a lot of ties around there. And so this is about recruiting ties in that region, whereas Robert Gillespie is about recruiting ties in Georgia, Florida, South Carolina. As everybody who's actually from the South knows, there are two deep Souths. One is low country, which is Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, barely Florida. And then one is Delta, which is Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And so this is to lock off the low country and Delta regions, basically, for recruiting. And I will say that I don't think it's as much news. The associate head coach, you're right. This is it. The one thing you would say is he was clearly worried about losing Freddie Roach because that's why he made that promotion to associate head coach. Quick, but Dave, you probably covered this press conference when Lane Kiffin was first hired and he introduced Ed Orgeron, remember? And he talked about how important it is that Ed Orgeron has the associate head coach's job and like oversold how important Ed Orgeron would be in that role for Tennessee.
Yes. And wouldn't ask the question, is your dad naturally coming? They flew me to Tampa Bay to interview his dad about coming. And his dad they had just gotten knocked out of the playoffs by giving up like 180 yards on the ground. His dad's like, I really don't want to talk about this. I was like, okay, well, I just flew down. So you're going to have to talk about it at some point. And his dad ended up talking about it a little bit. That all-star staff was pretty impressive. Now, it wouldn't have worked out long-term. They wouldn't have gotten along. There were some teetotalers who didn't believe in drinking, and there were some other guys who were teetotal party animals. So there was some very distinct personalities. It wouldn't have worked out. But then there's another coaching addition, which I think helps the Vols. I don't think this is a splash hire. Take me to the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Yes, in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, a guy named Bush Hamden. Not Butch Hamden. His first name is Bush Hamden, which is typically a last name. He has been hired as the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. To his credit, he was at Boise State for 1 year, and he improved the offense from 54th to 29th in scoring. But I feel like if you're a good offensive coordinator, and this is what I've always said, David, you correct me if I'm wrong. If you're a good offensive coordinator, then if you're at a group of 5 program, you should be having a top 10 offense, right?
Yes. I mean, if you're a good offensive coordinator, I should know who you are.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to sound mean, but Bush Hamden is a little bit out of left field.
He was Missouri's quarterbacks coach in 2022. So he's an Eli Drinkwitz disciple. He coached receivers and quarterback in 2020 and 2021. He also coached under Chris Peterson at Washington in 2018 and 2019. He was Matt Ryan's quarterbacks coach in 2017, the year after they blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see. Put it this way. He's not Liam Cohen, who I think is the best possible offensive coordinator Kentucky ever could have had. And I'm with you. I'm not that high on this. I don't know. I don't know what Mark Stoops' thought process is with this hire, particularly when he's got to face, like, let's be honest, Kentucky and Missouri are that's borderline an SEC rivalry, and just like who's like, you know what I mean? That at most years that's borderline an SEC rivalry that no one cares about, and so yeah, I think I don't know what the move is with Bush Hamden. I don't
Did you
know
hear one
what's
of the
behind that.
things that he asked about Kentucky?
No, what did he ask?
Well, he asked for Kentucky to specifically play when he's introduced Machine Head at the stadium by Bush. Did you know that?
Okay, is that a joke or are you
It's a joke.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a joke. Yeah, can you imagine that terrible band Bush? Hi. Hey everybody, it's Bush Hamden. I tell you what, it doesn't the hire doesn't wow me if I'm a Kentucky fan, right? Doesn't
Yeah,
do
no,
much.
I agree. But this is what Mark Stoops wants. You know this, Dave. Mark Stoops doesn't want headliners on offense running the show. He doesn't like that. And I mean, it's very, in case I don't know if you remember this, Kirby Smart wasn't that different. When he first was at Georgia, remember his first hire was Jim Chaney, and then Jeremy Pruitt hired Jim Chaney away. This was actually, if you remember this was Nick Saban's philosophy over a decade ago, wasn't it? Remember when Nick
No, it
Saban hired
was.
Jim McElwain? He did not like headliners on offense.
No, and see, it's what I like about what Josh Heupel's done. I feel like he's put as much emphasis on recruiting and getting guys like James Pierce. And by the way, we know we just got word of a change in Tennessee staff, so we're going to get to that, but we want to finish up here. When you look at Tennessee and what they've done recruiting wise, they've put every bit the effort into a James Pierce or the Ross kid. His first name's escaping me all of a sudden. The edge rusher is coming in.
Jordan Ross.
Yeah. They put as much effort into those defensive guys as they have the offensive guys. So it's not like that. It's not as if whatsoever you have Josh Heupel just recruiting to his strengths. I mean, you're talking about Pierce, you're talking about Ross, you're talking about potential all SEC players they've gone out and gotten. And we haven't even mentioned Arian Carter, who I think is going to be a superstar. I think Arian Carter, at the end of the day, will be borderline as impactful as Pierce. I think Pierce plays a more impactful position. But I think those two guys are going to be elite players. Out of this whole defensive side of the ball, I think those are the guys most likely to be elite. I'll throw another one in there after talking to Cooper Mays. Elijah Simmons, if he's healthy, has an opportunity to go from kind of a nobody to top first 2 days.
He can get mean. He's got to get mean.
Some truth to that. There's some truth.
I mean, maybe this is where Fred White would be useful. Get Fred White to call Elijah Simmons' girlfriend or whoever and just start ragging on him, since Fred White's the best trash talker ever, right, Dave? And so
I'm down with that. And I think Kalen's right. Not Caleb, Kalen on the message board. Stoops is content, not as much pressure to win championships, gets paid very well. I think that's true.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
I think he's Jerry Green, but he's not as old as when Jerry Green got the Tennessee job. I don't think there's any question that Jerry Green was fine winning 20 games a year, making the NCAA tournament, and really didn't care that much how deep they went. That was a golden parachute job. What's weird to me about Stoops is he's doing it 15 years before Jerry Green did it. That to me is
15 years after, you mean?
No, he's doing it 15 years before in his career.
15 years younger. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That the part is the part that's bizarre to me.
I mean, there are, to be fair, there are lifestyle moves. I mean, you know this, Dave. Rick Byrd at Belmont never accepted a larger job, and he only would have accepted the Tennessee job. And he openly said, I got a good life here in Nashville, coaching at Belmont. And he didn't really want a bigger job. Wanted to keep
Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you got to learn that. I have. So, Caleb, we have breaking news that's just coming down the pike right now. Tennessee with another change on their coaching staff. What can you tell us about Brian Jean-Marie?
Yes, and Brian Jean-Marie, according to VolQuest, and has accepted the Michigan job. He is now returning to Michigan. Ben McKee has just reported that. It's the second assistant the Vols have lost within a week. This is more of a telling one because Brian Jean-Marie is going from a college job to a college job. Little bit more of a red flag because, I mean, when Jerry Mack left from a college job to an NFL job, you and I have talked about that, Dave. That's not about Tennessee. That's about the work-life balance of college versus the NFL.
Great.
But Brian Jean-Marie is going back to Michigan. He has coached at Michigan in the past, so it's not like this isn't a place where he's been, but it's not like he's a graduate of there or anything like that. It is telling that he went back up there. He coached there in 2020 when Jim Harbaugh when they were actually kind of bad, funny enough. So I wonder if this is just a promotional role or if he likes Michigan better or if he feels like he has more growth opportunities up in Michigan. But I don't know the details of why he went back to Michigan. Well, I don't know what Michigan offered him that Tennessee didn't.
I was told Sharon Moore, who is the new head coach, really, really liked him and that he was going to make a push. So whether that means more money or more love or more responsibility, and I'm not even joking, it made me an associate head coach title, that Moore was going to do everything that he could to get him. That's why I started to lean towards Tennessee would lose. And he kind of could pick up the tenor in our conversations. Tennessee could lose 2 coaches. So now they've lost 2 coaches. Sorry.
Mac. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought you were about to name it. Yeah.
No, it's fine. They lost Jerry Mack. Is this disconcerting? Scale of 1 to 10. 10. People are jumping ship. 1. They're replacing these coaches with better coaches.
I think it's like a 3 to 4. The only thing I think that's concerning about it is, and you talked about this yesterday, having staff openings, even if it's not going to hurt, even if they're staff members you aren't going to miss, the attrition alone can affect how you do other things. Like you said, like they probably have to retain Willie Martinez now because they just can't afford to. Yeah, you have to. You just can't afford to let him walk and while you're trying to replace 2 other guys. It's just not a great look. It's going to hurt you in recruiting. It's going to reset salaries. There's just a lot of other factors. So I think from that perspective, it's a concern. But in terms of, are they good? Like, neither of these coaches left Tennessee because they didn't like Tennessee. You're right. It sounds like Brian Jean-Marie got a better offer at Michigan. Okay, fine. And
the optics are that it's a lateral move, though. I think that one hurts. Anybody that knows anything about football, even prospects, I would say, should know that coaches are trying to get to the NFL because the calendar is so untenable. So you have that situation in Jerry Mack. So I get that. I think the fact that this is kind of a lateral move, even though Michigan just won the national title, they're similar programs. I think the optics aren't good. But I think Tennessee knows that they were not elite coaches. We had Jimmy Hobbs. We talked about this yesterday. They are not elite coaches by any stretch of the imagination. The elite ones are, I believe, the Banks, the Garners, of course, the Heupels. Those are your elite guys. But I do think the fact that they have elevated Kelsey Pope, Alec Ablin, Joey Halsley, I would be disappointed if I'm a Tennessee fan and they don't hire somebody that's got a little splash to them, somebody that's just a dyed-in-the-wool, incredible recruiter, because you have 2 positions open right now where at least one in running backs, you could fill that with an incredible recruiter. At the linebacker spot, Banks has heavy influence there. You could fill that with an incredible recruiter. So let's see where this goes. But right now, I think you got a little bit of a cause for concern of the optics of it. You better make a splash hard and get somebody good. And quite frankly, in this day and age of college football, we don't know that they weren't told that you could explore other options as well.
Yeah, so you're right. And there's a couple of layers to this. It's possible. Look, I said last week, Tennessee should make a splash hire to replace Jerry Mack. And guys, the reason I said that is because, and I meant splash hire for recruiting because I don't think chemistry or anything like that matters a running backs coach. Your running backs coach is just a recruiter, period, end of story. I think it's a little different for linebacker coaches. I think there's some coaching that's required.
No, I agree.
And so, yeah, so I think there's going to maybe they have an analyst they can promote that would keep the chemistry going. Now, someone just suggested this. You could move Mike Eckler over to linebackers coach. I will say this. Dave, you tell me if I'm wrong on this. You know more ball than I do. I think coaching edge rushers is just as much a glorified recruiter position as coaching running backs. You don't coach a lot for edge rushers, right? You run after the quarterback.
Yes, and he's Eckler has coached linebackers previously. Let me run through some possible names that I've been hearing. Some of them might actually sound familiar, as a matter of fact, and I know that A to Z has reported some of these as well. But one would be John Jancic, former Tennessee defensive coordinator. Would he have any interest in coming back? What would you think of a potential Jancic hire?
I mean, he was very salty about the way he left because Butch Jones scapegoated him for some things. By the way, he wasn't wrong to scapegoat him. I'm going to be honest, as much as I don't like Butch Jones, but maybe he would come back. I can't get that 2015 4th and 17 Florida call out of my mind from when he was a defensive coordinator. That was the absolute worst call outside of that defensive call against Alabama this past year on 4th and goal from the 30. That was the second worst call in the history of 4th down defensive calls of all time in football.
Yep.
And so that's why I can't get that out of my head.
Then you have Tony Gilbert, former Jacksonville Jaguars linebacker coach. He has a tie to Eckler because he coached one season at North Carolina. He has extensive coaching experience in Georgia, Auburn, and North Carolina. And then you have Joe Lorigood out of Oregon, special teams coordinator. I don't know how he would fit in there since Tennessee already has one of those in Eckler. But he does have a relationship with a couple of the coaches there. So he's a Washington native. Would he want to come this far? And then Kevin Clune, Northern Arizona defensive coordinator. This would become from Heupel's time at Utah State. Mike Schur, UNLV defensive coordinator. He joined UNLV staff as a defensive coordinator in 2023. Former Missouri linebacker. According to A to Z Sports, it seems like everyone is always trying to get back to the SEC, so would sure consider that. I think the SEC is a good pull. I think Tennessee's current situation and where they are is a good pull as well. But again, the optics are going to be you've lost a couple of coaches. You just had an 8-win season. Am I jumping on I'm just telling you objectively from another coach's potential perspective. Am I jumping on a train that's headed the right direction or is at the station or is heading in the wrong direction? I think if you're a coach outside of the situation and you have options after an 8-win season and 2 coaches leaving, you should ask yourself that question.
Yeah, but that's why I say it's a mild concern, but I don't think it's a big concern. Let's also consider this. So let's throw one name out, even though he's the best hire of all the ones you named. Tony Gilbert would be the best hire possible for Tennessee. He also worked with Josh Heupel in 2018 and 2019. Guys, he's not going back to Knoxville. Why would you leave an NFL gig for a college gig? And Tennessee is not going to want to open the checkbook for to get an inside linebackers coach like that. So quite honestly, I think that's not happening. One of the things with Brian Jean-Mary, excuse me, I apologize, is that he was a coordinator one time. And it was under Charlie Strong. I believe it was Charlie Strong at South Florida for a 3-year period from 2017 to 2019. But he's never been a coordinator outside of that, and he's never even been sniffed for a head coaching job, and he's almost 50. That's kind of a red flag where it's like, okay, you're not really going to miss a guy like that, right, Dave?
Sounds a little Chavis-like. If you want to vote on our poll question on the YouTube page, what if the Vols won just 8 games in the regular season in 2024? 15% say hot seat for Heupel, 48% said disaster but keep calm, 35% say still growing, and now some votes for 8 is fine. I don't care what you say and what sitcom you like the most, but 8 isn't enough in 2024. 2 minutes, and then coming up on the program, are the Vols suddenly a Final Four contender again after a big win against Arkansas? I feel like we're on a roller coaster of basketball. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Got cataracts? We can fix that. Never miss another moment. With a little help from Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Haun at cctis.com.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
We believe every day is a good day to be thirsty. With free samples on draft and lots of flavors to choose from, Tennessee Cider Company prepares a hard cider that's easy to enjoy. Some say it's the signature cider of the South. Others say it's the cure to your craving. They all say you'll savor every sip. The area of Gatlinburg has so much to offer, and so does Tennessee Cider Company. Add us to your list for shopping and fun experiences. You'll be glad you made the trip. Find our cidery in the Mountain Mall on the Gatlinburg Parkway. Sip smart. Sip the good stuff. Sip Tennessee Cider Company. Thirsty yet? Doors open at 10 a.m.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Yes, Smoky Mountain Red, the blonde in the cider ad is a cutie. There's no question about that. We yet to have some cuties because, well, I guess they could be cute considered by some, but they're all dudes. So right now on Hooker's Corner, we've got all dudes. So it's you're the Johns. You need to go ahead and join today. It's just $9.98, and that's 98 for, of course, the 1998 season. But if you join today, then we'll go ahead and get you in the drawing for the Hendon Hooker mini autographed helmet at the end of the month. Plus, we will have a weekly drawing of a t-shirt or a cap. So everybody that has already joined should have received an email from me that you can choose between your book or your shirt. So if you have not, or if you haven't had a chance to respond to it, check your spam, because I'm sure a lot of these can go to spam, especially with my last name being Hooker. That's no fun. Is Tennessee a Final Four type of team again when we were just throwing dirt on them yesterday? Yeah, I mean, I go back to the A&M game, and I wanted to hear your take on it and Jimmy's take a lot, but I do think that they were incredibly hot behind the three-point line. I think Tennessee was tired because they don't go deep enough. I completely agree with everything that Caleb has said, and I think he's been on the forefront of that for a long time, even though you've ripped him on the YouTube page. I don't believe that Tennessee lacks depth. I believe they don't utilize depth. So, yes, I think they're still a Final Four caliber team. They're going to have to use some sort of load management. And I'm not talking about not playing players, but playing them a little bit less to get fresh legs underneath them. I don't think first-round bounce out of the SEC tournament would be necessarily a bad thing. Caleb, but yes, I think this is one of 8 teams that I look at, and I think in the nation is Final Four caliber. By the way, South Carolina looked great against Auburn. Travis points out that would be the other team in the SEC that I would point to.
Yeah, South Carolina isn't. I mean, they are. Lamont Paris is coach of the year in the SEC. I mean, there's not even a close second. He is by far the coach of the year in the SEC. So as for Tennessee, I'm going to give them credit first because yesterday. Now I know Arkansas is a 500 team, but it was a road game. So when you play a 500 SEC team on the road, that's the equivalent of playing a lower seed in the NCAA tournament. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yes, I can go with that.
Okay. What did Arkansas do yesterday? They went red hot from 3 in the first half. They couldn't miss anything. Tennessee, and this is why I say teams that go red hot from 3, that's not an excuse when you lose, because guess what? You're inevitably going to run into a team that's red hot from 3 in March, and you have to be able to withstand it. So what did Tennessee do yesterday? This is why they looked like such a veteran team. They played so smart. Everybody's going to talk about the second half where they ran away and won in dominating fashion, 46. Which is why they won 92-63. I look at the first half. Arkansas's at home. They can't miss from 3. They're playing up tempo, a way Tennessee doesn't like to play. Tennessee doesn't panic at all. What do? They turn to their go-to scorer in Dalton Connect, and they play their inside-out game in Jonas Adu, and they find who has got the hot hand, which yesterday was Jordan Gainey. Now, those are the 3 things you need to do on offense if the other team's red hot. You find your go-to scorer. You go to your go-to scorer in Dalton Connect. You go down low to Jonas Adu. And then you find which guy is hot from outside, whether that be Vescovi, Josiah Jordan-James, Jordan Gainey, Zakai Ziegler. And that's how you do this. And give a lot of credit to Zakai Ziegler. He didn't panic when things got out of hand. He kept things under control, which he does very well. So I think that's a very good sign for Tennessee that they were very smart and that they played like veterans. So I know that they dominated the second half, but them going into halftime with a lead when Arkansas was that red hot from 3 is quite honestly I think that's the biggest story of the day, is that they were able to go into halftime with a lead when Arkansas was unstoppable on offense and hitting everything.
No, I think that one of the things I was thinking about during the game last night is that we talked about, and we joked and probably overspoke a little bit, that Tennessee, if they need points in the tournament, needs to tell 4 guys to go stand over in the corner and let Dalton Connect score. Yes, you can do that, but you don't want to be too dependent on that, right?
Yeah, they shouldn't. They actually should turn to Jonas Adu first.
Okay. I can roll with that. But I really like Connect as a scorer.
No, Connect's
who's taking the last shot though? If you're down,
no,
1.
Connect is the main scorer, but the offense goes as Jonas Adu goes. And if Jonas Adu is not a threat under the basket, then the whole offense they're not winning. This team goes as Adu goes, even though Connect is the best player. Like those Spurs teams, Dave. Tim Duncan was the best player, but they went as Manu went. Remember that? They went as Manu went. And if Manu didn't play well, the Spurs weren't going to win. And so that's the thing with Dalton Connect. Now, to knock them, Tennessee had a 20-point lead with 13 minutes left to go in the game. Rick Barnes still played Adu, Connect, and Zakai Ziegler all 30 minutes. What are you doing, Rick? It was 13 minutes to go in the game, and you're up by 20, and you're still playing your starters 30 minutes and more.
There has to be a movie out there. Can anybody think of one that is a movie clip that's like, oh, Rick. I mean, that's what we need. We need like somebody who has played one. We're like, oh, Rick. That's what we need. Something along the lines of, but I'm not saying it's going to be nearly as good, but something along the lines of it has this meaning, but it doesn't say it.
You suck, you jackass.
Yeah.
And we don't want Peyton saying,
they're like, that is total bullshit.
That's hot.
Yeah, we need an all Rick one. Here's the thing, Caleb. I think you've come up with ideas and found me to be what? Very, very flexible, right?
Right.
When you came up with, by the way, tell us about the latest history videos that you have.
So the latest one is about how Jim Harbaugh restored Michigan. I've got one coming up on Kalen DeBoer and how he came up and how he's going to become how he got to Alabama in the first place. My best one, I want you guys to all take a look at it. It's a two-parter on the entire history of bowl games and the national championship and how it evolved in college football to begin with. And
well, when you get a chance to when you give Caleb a chance to plug something, buddy, he does it. So
wow, you asked me to shamelessly plug it, but okay.
No, it just went on a little long, I thought. By the way, Smoky Mountain Red found the email. So if you're a part of Hooker's Corner, you've won. Find that email and spam. And if you don't have it, email me, just david@thehooksports.com, and I'll get it taken care of. But he's not gonna. I think I'm flexible. But still, at the end of the day, you came to me with the idea of doing the history videos. And I was like, man, there's part of me that wishes he'd spend that time elsewhere. I was wrong. The videos have been great. They've picked up subscribers. One has like a couple of thousand views, and they're there forever, and they're awesome. But at some point in my life, I'm probably going to get past the point of being flexible and wrong. The old dog, new tricks, right? We can hope and sit here and say, man, wouldn't it be nice if Rick Barnes went deeper into his bench? Wouldn't it be nice if there was more of a free-flowing game and they got up and down the court? Wouldn't all this be nice? But are we really just kind of eating edibles when we think about that? Because Caleb, I don't know that he's going to change at 76 years old. Isn't he 76?
Well, no, he's not 76. I don't think he's 70 yet, but that was nice to go there.
I think he's 70.
But here was why I could understand if you won a national championship. You've been to one Final Four in your career. How do you have how do you have this philosophy and say, my philosophy's worked, I'm great, even though I'm one of the most consistent underachievers in the history of the NCAA tournament? Okay? It's the same with Tony Bennett, the coach of Virginia, not the singer, okay?
Yes.
Tony Bennett.
I do like that Tony Bennett. He's got a wacky style.
Tony Bennett was a defensive-focused team, believing all you got to do is focus on defense to win titles. And Virginia kept getting bounced out early because what have I always said, Dave? Scoring wins championships. Finally, after Virginia became the first number one team to lose, remember that? When they became the first number one seed to lose in the tournament, when they lost to UMBC in the first round?
Yes.
He revamped everything that season. Didn't sacrifice his defense, but he started saying, I need to make sure guys can get me buckets when they need to on offense. And he focused on offense. And what did he do the next year? He won the national title. And so you need a coach that's willing to change his philosophy a little bit at certain times. You know, Johnny Majors actually was very good about that, believe it or not. Johnny Majors consistently made different hires for staff hires that kept him winning. Nick Saban did it better than anybody.
Yeah, the year they started 0-6, he replaced Ken Donahue with I can't remember who it was, and they ended
guy
up
named Doug Matthews, I think. Funny enough, but then he eventually got Larry. He eventually got Larry Lacewell. That was the big change. Was Larry Lacewell was the brains, and he hired Fuller.
I just don't. Okay, what's more likely, that Tennessee scores 70 in the tournament, or that Rick Barnes is still the head coach when he turns 70 in July?
That they score 70 in a tournament game?
Yes.
The Tennessee, that Rick Barnes is still the head coach in July, but they're going to score 70 in a tournament game.
Okay. I hope so. Don Self, State Farm agent. Don Self, customer service still matters. He is a State Farm agent in Collegedale and Ottawa. Go to donself.net. It's right below donself.net. They'll take care of you. Everybody wants to save money, but you got to remember that, man, if you want to place that claim, you want customer service. How many times will they score 70 or plus? Or he's 69 now. So how many times will they score 69 or more?
That's a question for Hooker's Corner, if there ever was one. But
they outscore his age.
Yes, because I think the problem will be, can they get to 80 when another team's red hot from three? And I'm not sure if they'll be able to consistently get to 80. Because there's always a moment where you got to get to 80 in a game. There's always a game where you got to get to 80.
Giggity. That's what we need. And we need the Ricky from Boys in the Hood.
Ricky!
He is Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Join Hooker's Corner on our Patreon group today. If you have any trouble finding it, you can just do this. How about Dave at offthehooksports.com? And you will win a ton of prizes. It'll be well worth it. You'll get inside information. What do we have up there now, Caleb? We have some recruiting discussions about.
Yeah, we've got a discussion about David Sanders Jr., who is a top target for Tennessee. And coming up later, we are going to have one about Josh Petty, another offensive lineman. So we got some fun stuff up there.
Papa J, I'm sorry. This one was a little bit short because Caleb has a commitment he has to get to. He's got a baby on the way, so we're working around things. We'll be with you.
Not today. Not a baby on the way today, but
no. He's not leaving to go have a baby. But tomorrow in the program, we'll have a special guest. Looking forward to that. Thank you very much. This has been a presentation.